Hello there, Saints fans. And I got Mr. Jason Dagg joining us again tonight. He was able to dial it in. Um, and lucky for him, we were just talking about this right before. He had your eldest baseball practice, right?
That's right.
But you were
Yes.
at, so you got to miss 2 quarters of this game that the rest
Yep.
of us suffered
I was
through.
out for
So
the second quarter through about a minute left of the third quarter, I guess.
yeah, it was pretty brutal. And we had talked about, I don't know how much we're going to really talk about covering this game because it's six in a row. I don't think anybody had high expectations. I didn't. When I did the video the other day on my thoughts on the game, none of them were really positive as hard as I tried to be. But what you actually saw today was worse than I thought, because I thought really we might have a fighting chance. We were getting guys back. We could stay in this game. And we did it for about a quarter and a half. And then it just was the same old thing the last few weeks. It starts sliding downhill and gets out of control before you know it. And you realize, like, while you're at baseball practice in the third quarter, I'm sitting there with the sports accountant watching the game, and we both know this shit's over.
Yeah.
We're not coming back and winning this game. We pulled, we tried, but deep down we're having the nah, we've seen this song and dance before, and it's not turning around. Which brings up the two tweets that just happened. It was kind of funny that when I pulled this up in my feed, they were like right next to each other, so I could screenshot them both at once. But Jeff Asher dropped the one saying that this is the eighth season the Saints have had a 6-game losing streak, and in all of them, the coach has gotten fired. JD Roberts, North, Nolan, Bum Phillips, Jim Moore, Mike Ditka, Hazlitt, and now will DA be part of this? And I'm kind of thinking he
Are those
should.
firings after the sixth loss or after the season or a
No,
combination?
after
I'm really
the
hoping it's after the sixth loss because I'm kind of
well,
hoping I wake up to that news tomorrow.
oddly enough, Mora was mid-season, but that was after a seventh loss. By the way, that seventh loss
In a
was in Carolina, where we go next week. That was the whole we couldn't do diddly poo post game
I
conversation.
was
Yeah.
about to say it was after a meltdown to the press.
Yep. It
That'll get you
deservedly
every
so.
time.
But Ditka and Hazlitt weren't. I think I want to say 1980. Maybe Dick Nolan was fired before the season ended, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But I think most of them survived the season. Um, I don't know why you'd want to, because I'm thinking at 6 and even 7 games, and I think Ditka might have been 7 in a row. I think there was 2 of them, or Hazlitt, one of those two. You're a lame duck coach at that point. Why are you even keeping them around? Just get it over with.
Completely agree.
Get it over with. Name somebody interim. Let them handle it. In my case, I'd be like, you got a guy in Rick Dennison who's a senior assistant or whatever his title is. He's not actually a coach. Just, hey, Rick, could you run this show for the last? And he's an older, hardcore type guy, and that might be what you need right now. I don't know, but um, I think it's safe to say he's a little different than Dennis Allen.
Yeah,
And this,
anything.
yeah. And the second tweet, this one scares me a little bit, because Matthew Paris was pointing out that the Chargers matched their season high in points in 26, and the only other time they did that was against Carolina. And I'm going, that's just not a comparison I want to make. Being made to right now, it's like, oh yeah, last time this offense, which not very good, it's not shitbag awful like ours has been, but it's not a very good offense. They hung 26 on us. They kind of did whatever they wanted to do. Um, about the third drive of that game, the one that went 90 yards for the touchdown, when we were just talking about Alontae Taylor of all people gets hosed by Lad McConkey. I'm thinking in no world is Lad McConkey going to beat Taylor.
He wasn't the only person on that play to make that Lad McConkey may look stupid.
No, but it started right there with that catch.
I mean, think about how many ugly plays we've had like that, where arm tackle
every week
or whiffing, and I mean, we are not a very passionate football team right now. There's a handful of players maybe on the roster that are giving it their all, and a couple of them it's the kind of last hurrah. I think like the Mario Davis. How much longer does he have? And he's out there, they're going, and the guys around them, they're not. They're kind of checked out. they feel like what you said that y'all were talking about in game of it's third quarter. We know we're not coming back.
Yeah.
We know
I,
we're coming back.
and to be fair, I don't think they're consciously doing it. I think that's just, I talked about this, I think last week, just kind of like when you're in a shitty situation and a shitty job, sometimes it's just hard to, you know, I've been there. You start looking around going, all right, where's my next job? I got to move on from this one. I
Right.
can't take this anymore. And your performance is going to suffer accordingly. Most people, not all. And I think that's a little bit of that. I do think there's some business decisions being made, but I'm not in the locker room. So, like, my opinion only, let me clearly state, I've got nothing to say that's happening. But we all watching the football games to be able to look and go, man, certain guys, what are you doing? What is going on out there? I
Yeah.
think you missed this play because I believe it was in the third quarter, but we actually had Dobbins stuffed behind the line. Saunders played a tremendous game. DeMario and Taylor were the three guys that had him. I wanted to say wrapped up, but the problem was they didn't. He busts out of that, ends up running for a first down. And it was just like a microcosm of our whole season because those were actually three of the guys that I feel like you mentioned DeMario. Saunders today was just a maniac. And Taylor, Spidey shortcomings, he doesn't quit out there. He's running around trying to make
Yeah.
plays till
He
the
makes
last
plays.
snap. And he does, and
Makes
he makes a
plays.
lot of them. Um, that's our three guys that couldn't. And I'm like, oh my Lord, there you could probably grab a handful of guys off defense that I would expect that to happen to, but those three aren't it. And it ends up happening. And it's just like, yeah, Jesus, this is like definitely going in the wrong direction. And it boils down to, I'm gonna throw this one at you, and then we can, because we discussed. I think unless you got something else on the game, I really don't, because we
No.
discussed beforehand. I don't think the story is the game. The story is what are we going to do now? And here's some good news right here. It's the remainder of our schedule. So double check me on this. Carolina better be a win. You better beat Carolina. If you don't beat Carolina, I don't even know what to do anymore. Falcons loss. Cleveland likely a loss the way they're playing right now, and they bring a good defense. Rams, when we're good and they're bad, we can't beat them. They're getting healthy, and I don't see how you hold them under 40 points. The Giants should be a win. Commanders, there's no way in hell we're staying with them. There's no way we're beating Green Bay, especially in Lambeau in December. Maybe the Raiders is a win, and no way we're beating Tampa. I mean,
I, I got to be
one,
honest
two,
with you.
maybe
I
three
look at that
wins.
schedule and I go, there's not many arguments that I can make where the Saints are better than any of those teams.
Carolina would.
From what we have watched over the last 5 weeks. Now, let's go back, right? The Philly game we should have won. They handed us the football 6 times. We turned it into 0 points. We should have won that game. We should have won the Atlanta game. We were winning the Atlanta game. We blew the game, and Koo made a big kick. After that,
against us.
we have gotten waxed. And
Yeah.
we are awful. Right now for me with the rest of the season, I'd be okay. Not great. I'm not saying I'm a pull for the Saints to lose. I would pull for us to win every single game and go to Super Bowl like every other Saints fan should, right? But realistically, I'm looking at it going, who's the quarterback's coming out next year? Is Rattler a guy? The only way to find out is to not put Carr back in and try to win 3-4 of those games, right? It's sit his ass on the bench where he should be for a different team backing up for $10 million a year instead of whatever the heck we're paying him, and let Rattler play. If he's god awful, then we can learn something in 2-3 more games. He'll have 6 or 7 under his belt, and then go with Hayner for 5 or 6 games, whatever we got left, and see if he's god awful. And if they both are, then neither one of them should be on the roster next year, or one of them should just be your backup, right? And you got to go after a quarterback, and hopefully you're in the top 3-4 picks.
Hey,
but who knows? We'll probably stick Carr back in there, right? Because that's the guy. That's DA's guy. We'll stick to DA, and we're gonna win 6 games, and we'll pick 9th or
I'll
10th,
tell you right now,
and we won't get a quarterback.
DA's already laying the groundwork that Carr's coming back when he's healthy. I mean, he did that before, and he mentioned it again after post game, like that's going to fix everything. And I'm like, look, he's a veteran, and you've got a rookie and a second year guy right now who both, and actually both of them today, to get back to today's game, started out looking okay, but at some point on both of them, it turned into a little bit hesitation, second guessing. And I get game flow, what was going on was probably affecting that. And that's probably the first thing they're going to have to get over because it's again, sports accountant and our brother-in-law and I are sitting there watching like a couple of times where they had to throw, they just didn't make it, or they double clutched it and it was a little that sort of stuff. But that was like later on in their play. Like when they first started, both of them kind of came out looking pretty sharp. So I've said all along, I think you got something there to develop. I just don't know if it's going to be this year or not. The only thing I'm worried about, because I'm seeing that little, like I don't even want to say a hitch, whatever it is. Sometimes like thinking a little too long and not like making the play when they see it, I guess, or in like Rattler's case, a couple of chances, tucking the ball and running instead of waiting. I'm trying to throw the ball downfield.
Right.
Little things like that. If it's because they're getting kind of gun shy or it's overwhelming, I'm like, you run the risk, or are we going to ruin them, or do we need to back them off and maybe let Carr take a beating behind that offensive line for a little while, let these guys kind of reset, and then maybe at the end of the year go, all right. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think we can win with Carr either. I read most of these games. I don't think it's going to matter.
Who's a team that has a injury-prone quarterback that is a playoff team? That's who we should be calling every minute, every hour, every day, begging them to take their car off our hands. Say, hey, be a great backup for y'all. Yeah, you have to pay the shit out of him, but if your quarterback gets hurt, you can still win the Super Bowl. Sell him. Like,
well,
get him out of here. Get him out of here. I don't want to come back. I don't want to pick ninth this year. If we're not a good football team. We've got so many needs. We need every round, every pick to be as high as it can.
Yes.
We need to start unloading people now. Like, I don't know when the trade deadline's got to be in soon, right?
Week from Tuesday, I believe, 4 p.m.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got about 9 days. We got 9 days to trade off a whole bunch of money of a whole bunch of aging players that should have never got the contracts that they got. We got some work to do with the front office that has been terrible.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a pretty much I guess right now, because I think that's at the point where you're at when you're looking at that schedule. So right now we're picking 6th overall as it's.
We got to get up.
Well, like I said, 1 to maybe 3 wins left on this schedule. You feel like Carolina would be the only one I'd say we have God, I don't know right now. I don't know if we're better than Carolina, but I think we are. I mean, God, I hope so, because they've just been off. We were at least good for part of the season. They've been awful the whole season. That's kind of what I'm going off here. And that's a get right game. We've been a get right game for 2 weeks in a row for Denver and San Diego both. So if there's ever a get right game, it's us versus Carolina. But outside of that,
New Orleans and Carolina in back-to-back weeks turned Bo Nix from, ooh, man, is he first round pick to, hey, man, he might be rookie of the year, like in 2 weeks. And this is, I'm exaggerating, right? But
yeah, but no, point taken. But I mean, it was like, and that was the thing.
We are the NFC South is yeah, I mean, Atlanta and Tampa, they give them props where they at right now, especially with what Baker did today, staying with Atlanta without his top 2 targets,
Yeah,
that's another thing. I'm tired of everything I'm hearing about the same. Like every time DA talks, or every time in any kind of media starts talking now, well, injuries. So the whole part of the game that I watched was injuries. Like, yeah, it's the NFL, and tens of millions of people around the country play fantasy football, and they could tell you everybody's injuries in the league, and everybody gets hurt for every team, and
it's besides the point.
No excuses.
It's besides the point now, because our offense, our offense was supposed to get better because of the returning starters this week. It did not.
It did not.
It didn't move the needle at all. So look, there's deeper problems going on here. Now they're quick to always blame something like injuries or because, and
Fans.
this is the meat of what this is all about coming in right now is, you know, talked about where we are now, talked about the remaining schedule, but where do you go from here? And it gets complicated. But the first thing that needs to happen, I'm sorry, and if you disagree with me, and I know you don't, but anybody that disagrees with me on that, I don't know how to help you. But Mickey Loomis needs to be fired tomorrow. If Mickey
Yesterday.
Loomis went to LA with the team, the proverbial he should be fired on the tarmac, that should have happened. But I don't know if he's there, if he's in New Orleans. Doesn't matter. As soon as he walks in the building, and this thing I keep hearing that, well, he's part owner. I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't really care because I do know he's not 51% owner. So even if you can't technically fire him, you could damn sure strip him of. And I would, to the point where I'd call agents and go, he's no longer. Don't negotiate with him. He doesn't speak for the team anymore. Start
Right.
changing codes in the building. Tell people, look, if you take one order from this guy, you're fired.
Right.
Just he's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. I
Done.
mean,
Done anyway. And if you can fire him,
care if
then
he's
get him out
got
the building.
percentage in ownership. It doesn't mean that that he can't be fired as a GM.
Yeah, no, you just strip the title, or even hey, you can still be GM, but you're now general manager of making sure the lights are on and off in the building.
Do better
That's your
with the
job.
concessions.
Yeah,
Before you
I know
embarrass yourself.
I know that's a gripe for y'all at the game,
ridiculous.
But and this is what we were kind of talking about this.
Hot drinks and cold food. That's what it's been.
I only went to one time and I didn't.
Hot drinks, cold food, 2 and 5. That's where we at right now as Saints fans.
Technically 2 and 6, but yeah.
Yeah, 2 and 6. You're right. 2 and 6. 2 and 6.
But even after you dump Loomis, like you and I were talking, the problems go deeper than that. We've not drafted well. We've not scouted well. If we have an analytics department, I don't know what they do. I don't know. Sports accountant and I were having this conversation. If Loomis is the guy in charge of all this mess is his fault. You fire him. If he's got people under him that aren't doing their jobs, it's still his fault. He's fired. If they're giving him year after year the wrong information because they don't know what they're doing and he's making decisions based on it, not realizing these people are screwing me over and had fired him, it's still his fault. He's fired. Yeah. There's no combination of this where he gets off scot-free. And it doesn't stop with him. It's somebody somewhere has got to be able to fix this. I just don't think any of them are in the building anymore.
Fire everybody except for some of the assistant coaches.
I think you keep them intact through the end of the season, and then you're going to evaluate that too.
Yeah, some coaches on staff that I think are good coaches that are handicapped by not having good players based off of bad drafts, bad trades, bad signings, not being able to make signings because of bad contracts. Those are GM front office issues that have affected good players, coaches that deserve better, and those people need to be let go. I'm beyond tired of having a conversation with Mickey Loomis. Like, he has got to be fired. I don't think he will. I've said it before.
No, I don't either, unfortunately.
We have an owner that is firing anybody. I think she sees happy people going into the dome and doesn't realize that we're just, very loyal people here in South Louisiana, right? And they're making a ton of money.
To a point.
Like I said, I right now I think we're a terrible team, so I want as many draft picks as high as they can be in each round, which is why, if we lose every game, then fine. At least there's something positive about it. I think they want the draft pick so that they can throw up billboards and signs and sell shirts and ads and whatever else. And,
Well, but this sooner or later, somebody's got to realize the days of going 1-15 with the dome still full of fans wearing bags over their heads, that's dead going. You're not going to see that anymore.
So many,
you start heading down that road, you're not going to fill the dome. You can put all the first round draft pick billboards. you're going to lose this fan base. It's
It'll be full. It's going to be a different color in there every week.
no, I'm talking about like full of Saints fans
Right,
actually,
right.
So at some point they've got to realize they're teetering on a dangerous edge right now.
I agree.
And they have to acknowledge the problem, which is the real problem. They're not doing it. So I mean, it was like starting to fix all this because you got to talk short term and long term. And we were discussing before we came on. You got to start right now with sitting down after you start firing some people, or maybe even before, and then start firing people, depending on the reaction. But like we are talking about right now, if you're looking at this roster, and then you start off with the cars and the cams and all those very high paid veteran with a lot of dead money. Do you want them? Some of them you're not going to be able to move before 2025. The cap hit is just too massively hard, and you don't want to. Here's the double edged sword. If you go over the cap, they're going to find you and they're going to take draft picks. And the last thing we want is Roger Goodell dicking around with our draft picks. So you have to make the decision. If any of them can be moved on prior to 2025, which ones are we moving? Because we know we're not going to be able to
All
do
of them.
all of them. Well,
All of them.
you're capped. At that point, Ms. Benson's writing checks and fines, and we're drafting
Everyone that we
fifth or
can.
seventh round.
Everyone that we can.
But it is everyone that we can. But you also have to look and go, and this is what I was asking you, going, I don't know if you've mentally made the list yet, but of all the players that it's easier to move on from, which are basically, I wouldn't touch the rookies right now unless somebody called and said, hey, I really want that guy. Then you can have him. But from the second year on, the guys on their first contracts or small extensions like Shaheed didn't really get a huge extension on his original contract because it wasn't that big to begin with. They're the guys easy to move on from. So start rolling down that list. Who would you want to build a new team around? And not necessarily as the centerpiece, but as a starter, major contributor on offense. Because after Olave and Shaheed and two big maybes next to Penning and Ruiz, and Ruiz technically has a big extension already, so he may not even qualify. But after that, I'm going, I don't know. And that's all guys you can move on from like
I'm
that.
trying to get it. I'm starting. I am sorting my list by who has the biggest contracts, and I am calling as many teams as will pick up the phone and start to try to get rid of all of them for whatever they'll give me.
Well,
when I saw that graphic the other day that I was telling you about, where we have negative money going into
that's every year.
It was eye opening in comparison to what other teams have. For me, it's why.
But keep
I'm
it in
calling
perspective.
every one of those teams and saying you could have any of these guys. They could come in and do more for you than what they're doing for us.
Keep it
god awful everywhere else. But you could just take all these people off our hand, and they're going to say, "Well, what do you expect back from it?" And I'm going to be like, "Nothing."
But that's the point.
Some tickets to y'all game. Like, come on.
That's the point, though. You're going to cap yourself. You're going to be over the cap. You got to remember, this time last year, we were the latest I saw was negative 75 million right before the Kamara extension, and Nick Underhill said something about that was taking it around negative 80 million. We were 230 million to the negative. This time last year, we were well over. We're actually beating our normal pace for being under the cap right now for some of the stuff they've already done because they kicked so much dead money off this year. But if you do too much of it, I mean, if you were to basically, if everybody on our roster right now were to retire and the accumulated dead money that we have spread out over the next, probably goes as far as 6 years, the total, the sports accountant and I were trying to add it up one day. We quit around a total of about $420 million in dead money. It's like twice the size of the actual cap. So when you get rid of some of those guys, all that dead money you've got spaced out, 10 million per year for the next 6 years, that becomes 60 million right now. So you cut the wrong guy, that negative 80 would be 140 like that. Now you could do it. And that's where Kai Hartley's got to come in and start doing the math and put pencil in the paper and go, that crappy mega contract, yes, we can get rid of this year. That guy, we may have to do the RAM check and tell him he's injured and out for the year so we can IR him and have him retire the following year so we can split his dead money over 2 years. It is a giant jigsaw puzzle, which is really why you got to go back and figure out of the guys that you can cut, who do you want to keep? Because who you don't want to keep is where you're going to have to start. Because as you start knocking those guys out and they're not carrying any dead money with them, you're getting rid of game checks this year. You might be able to start freeing up enough cap space to get rid of people this year and stick their dead money on it. Prior to Alvin's extension, I think if we'd have traded him at the trading deadline, I think he was carrying about $6 million in dead money. I think it's because of the extension. I think it's going to be 21, but I'm still not sure because it's complicated the way Saints do shit. I would like the Saints to get away from all that crap and just reset the bar. And it would probably take about 2 to 3 years to do it, where we're not doing that anymore. We're like other teams going, we're going to stay within the realm of the cap as close as we can. We'll probably exceed it every now and then when we're really good and bring in some talent, but we can work around that and quit trying to. I don't know why they feel like they have to extend everybody on the roster. That's what they've been doing the last few years, going, no, some of these people you should have let walk out the door. It would have sucked that they no longer played for us. But they're not doing anything for us now except taking up and creating this cap issue. You can't get out from under it in 1 year. You need at least 2. It's probably going to be 3 to get it all right. So you need draft picks.
Whoever on the roster we can trade and have them take the entirety of the contract.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Current money, dead money, whatever it can go.
They can't take dead money. Dead money is yours. Dead money is yours forever and ever. You can't get rid of it. So once it's on your books as dead money, that's all that is money that's future cap space you've borrowed. That's the whole deal when they do like Alvin got that 29 million or 24, whatever it was, but 15.5 of it million was in signing bonus. What they'll do is they'll basically chop up the contract, give him in bonus, because bonus is a check that day. So he gets his $15 million check. And then it gets, because I think he's got 3 or 4 void years on it. So let's say 3. So it's a 5-year deal. Even though he gets the 15 million, they chop it up over 5 years. So you got 3 million of dead money each year. Right. That's the Saints forever and ever. So if he leaves, and the second he leaves, all of it comes back.
Everybody that frees up salary cap money.
Yeah. That's the tricky part. That's the tricky part.
Whoever on the roster can go, they can go. And for me, that's
really your 1 year, your rookies. You're
not exaggerating. Everybody can go. Everybody can be traded. That the entirety of the contract to free up salary cap money can go, and we need to do it all for draft picks and get as many draft picks and low contracts as we can in the building. And if it's 2 years, then those guys will be around.
Again, you could do it.
Trade off a couple every year, and I don't know, man. We're in a bad spot, and everybody that got us in this bad spot needs to be out, because they're not going to get us out of this spot.
The only one you want to keep is Kai Hartley, because he's the one that figured it out how to get you in this spot. So his job is now figure out the way to get us out of it. He would probably literally have to give you a list of who you could move, and if you can't move them, can you cut them? I think that's where you would have to start with that, going, if I can move him, if I can trade him, because whatever's left on the contract that's guaranteed, basically the game checks, that would go to the new team. You're clearing cap space that way. He's the dude that puts this whole jigsaw puzzle together, so he'd have to be the one that takes it apart. But, the point being is you do have some young guys you probably want to keep around, So you're really starting over if you let some of those walk out the door.
If they're on rookie deals, then
the problem is,
I guess that's the same thing. But
the problem is
we missed the boat. We always miss the boat on trading guys. We should trade guys, and we were talking about that before the show. That looking at us now at 2-6, I wish we would have traded a lot more in the offseason and gotten some draft picks.
It's doable, but what you need your draft picks, and you need to hit on your draft picks, because that's how you're going to do this. And you're going to end up having to sign a bunch of UDFAs to fill out your roster during those 2 years. So you're not going to be very good while you're doing it. But hopefully, when
Me-
you clear everything out, you pull off what some teams have been able to pull off. Houston in a similar circumstance. Looks like Detroit managed to do it, but you know, you got to be careful
I
you
want to
don't go the
make
other way, though.
I want to make as many trades as we could possibly make over the next 9 days to get as many draft picks and clear up as much cap space, fire our coach and fire our GM, and hopefully that's enticing enough for a good GM and a good coach to want to come to New Orleans, because right now it is a shit show.
To get anybody wanting to come here, yes, you're going to have to clean out a lot of the front office. And see, and this is another reason why Mickey's got to go. Like to get a good coach in here, even if you were to fire everybody but keep Mickey, I'm going to walk in the door if I'm a good coach and go, I want roster control, not you. And you have proven you can't handle the roster. No. And of course, Mickey's going to say no. So that's when
Right. Right.
so the whole mess has got to be cleaned out and cleaned up. And I'm going to tell you, if you start now and get as much as what you're talking about done as you can get done, it makes it easier over the next 2 years. And you got to draft well. I mean, you can't miss on draft picks at all.
I kept saying that about how DA is the Mickey guy and Mickey's choice, and maybe I just left it on the surface and didn't look at it deep enough and just thought, well, Mickey's terrible, so of course the terrible coach is his guy. But maybe he's his guy because no good coach wants to come in and work underneath him, and he knows that hey, I can keep like on the useful idiot, right? That I'll keep my job from Homeland, right? The useful idiot. Everybody needs a useful idiot in every plan. And DA seems to be Mickey's useful idiot, right?
And his fall guy if he needs it. If Mickey starts feeling nervous about his job, then we get rid of him and then we'll move on. So, but
look, he can be smacking his gum. Look, we
don't go there.
We're elevating Kubiak. I brought him in, and then he's going to completely control who Kubiak can have on his team, and
we're back to the same old. But I think
and then he's going to blame the fans in the off season.
Yeah, and try to sell us stuff like a good organization looks beyond the results in a business where the only thing that anybody cares about is the results.
Right.
And I tell
we
you
need
what,
to fire him now, because if I gotta see either one of those two guys on any set for the Super Bowl talking and representing the Saints, it's going to drive me nuts.
Tell me about it. And to your point, and I'm going to address that because I talked about it when he said it. If, for instance, our 5 starters or whatever we got back today came back and we lose this game like 26-24 in a hard-fought contest, and for the first time since basically Atlanta, Philly, we showed, okay, we're headed in the right direction. You could sell me on the beyond results, okay? But you would have to probably go on a 5 or 6 game winning streak after that to completely sell me. You crapped the bed today. So I don't want to hear about beyond the results. I want results. And I realize I'm probably not going to get them this year.
Team.
So how about start getting some results ready for next season? Let's avoid the Christmas rush and start now in October. So, unless you got something to go, I'm going to go to these guys here because they've been piling them up while we were talking.
Trade them all.
No, I felt for a while we might only end up scoring 2 points, but I felt for sure that sooner or later they were going to figure it out and start moving the ball in our defense, and they were going to score points. But really, I thought 16-10, 17-13, or 15 or whatever, I felt like we could keep it in that range and give ourselves a shot, and that was pretty much done by halftime or shortly thereafter.
I was expecting us to give up 40 again because that season.
I wouldn't even done the show tonight. I'd have just flat canceled it. There'd been no way we'd have given up 40.
Our defensive-minded head coach likes to give up 40 at home. I did 50. What did 50 last time? Yeah, I was expecting 50. Us to lose, and I was expecting us to get blown out, and I was expecting us to give up a whole bunch of points. I was hoping Kamara was going to go off. Maybe
the one-day run
catch, go for 100, but Nope, but nope.
Had the one big run and the one big catch on the screen pass, but other than that, it was tough sledding. The guy that looks the best was Kendre Miller, who hurt his hamstring again, and I think two of his better runs got called back. One of them was a bullshit holding call of Lucas Patrick, but neither here nor there. Before he got hurt, we still weren't giving him the ball enough to make a difference.
Kendre hurt again.
Yeah. Was that the last time? But I thought you were on with me after Philly or Atlanta, one of those two.
No, this was it. This is it. Last time was
Oh.
kind of we agreed. I saw Tim Saturday watching some 5-year-old soccer, some riveting stuff right there.
Talk about a beat down. That game was a beat down. We've been having them all weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. Life has kind of slowed down, so I told him I'd be on tonight, and in my head I was going, man, I hope we lose because people are gonna think I only get on when we win.
No, I've been asked that question before.
No, yeah.
But he's available. He's going to show up.
No, look, hey, I came on and I said we are the best team in the NFL, and we were. There was
we were for 2 weeks. Yeah, and we enjoyed it for 2 weeks, if nothing else.
But I did caption it with, do I think that we're the best team? No, I don't. Do I think we're going to win the Super Bowl? No, I don't. But we were currently playing the best and had all the best statistics in the NFL. And
if we'd have kept half of that going, I don't know if we're a playoff team, but we're definitely not having the conversation we're having now.
And
that's the result.
We go to Philly. We play Philly, and Philly comes, into the dome and hands us the football. I've been through this too many times.
That's the problem. We've been through it too many times.
It's been downhill, and McCoy gets hurt, and I don't know. It's we never were a Super Bowl team. I was hoping we'd be a Super Bowl team, but I never believed we would be.
We do. However, this is where you got to be careful in that. A lot of times, especially in the draft, for reasons I think that has nothing to do with their ability to play football or play it at a high level. Everybody gets tagged franchise quarterback before you really find out if they're. Because remember, Anthony Richardson, which I knew was bullshit after watching him play for 3 years in Florida, was the first round Indy franchise quarterback, and it was a horrible pick. You got to be careful how you throw in franchise around. I would prefer potential to be a franchise quarterback, and let's see if you get him in and he can do what Jane Daniels is doing. I didn't see Chicago today. Caleb Williams had been playing better recently, but I don't know about today. Drake May looked like he was, till he hurt his groin today, was having a good game. You get guys like that. I think it takes a year or two before you really know if they're quote unquote franchise, but it's a good starting point. So if you get up there, and I'm with you. I don't know who they're going to be this year coming out of college, but you get up there and you can make that determination going, I think this kid has a shot. I think Jane Daniels was kind of a no-brainer, to be honest with you. It probably should have been taken first overall. But after that, it can be a crapshoot. The problem is like getting the Rattler. There's a reason why Spencer Rattler fell to the third day. And it's not necessarily his ability, or because he does have abilities, got some good things going for him. I think some teams, just in the Saints probably included, are just like, yeah, he's got first level arm talent and he's got mobility, but we don't know if we feel comfortable with quote unquote drafting him in the first round to be the franchise quarterback.
I think we live in an era where we always want to tap people as great or franchise or elite or whatever. And the truth is they're not. And that's pretty much why teams get in trouble like the Saints are. They put labels on those guys and then they get contracts as if they are, and they don't deserve them. And you're not.
That's the problem. Is when they start getting overpaid.
There's a whole bunch of people being paid like franchise quarterbacks that are not franchise quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
They are quarterbacks of franchise, yeah. But, I mean, look where San Francisco's at right now. Brock Purdy is the last pick of the draft. He was not drafted to be a franchise quarterback, but he fits great in Shanahan's system. I think you got to be careful with that. I agree, and then there's people like Anthony Richardson who like, oh my goodness, look at what he did. Look at the arm strength. Look at it. And when you hear that about those guys, I go, okay, he's gonna be terrible because why would you say that? And it's like, well, because the last person you said that about was absolutely terrible. Like when
Right.
Zach Wilson made the one throw at his pro day, and it's like,
Or
that's
the GM.
there's guys like that every year. You got to be very careful. Now, do I want a quarterback early in the draft? Absolutely. Do I know who that's going to be coming out right now? I don't,
No.
and that's kind of scary to me.
Yeah, you normally have a pretty good
I
idea.
don't think we need a franchise quarterback. I think we need to trade a whole bunch of people on our roster and see what our needs are when we go into the draft and draft the best player available at that spot. I think there's some good linemen coming out on both sides of the ball this year.
That would help.
And I think if you get the right coach in, I think if maybe Kubiak's the right coach to come in with a little bit more control and get some guys in that fit his system the way he wants to run it. Or if we do get rid of DA, which we should, a month ago, we get in somebody like Ben Johnson or something that maybe come in and find you a guy later in the draft or through free agency or a trade or something that can get the work done. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if you're giving up 40, 50, and then if every team you're playing is scoring the most points that they've scored that season, then it doesn't matter who your quarterback is.
Unless your quarterback can put up, the video game numbers. But here's the kicker.
Yeah, but to
people, but here's the kicker. It's been well documented. Some people in the media just don't like talking about it, I think, because it destroys their narrative of, well, you got to have the franchise quarterback or whatever.
Yeah.
Quarterback play has been going down. Running the ball has been going up. The NFL is always cyclical. So once, you'll get quarterbacks and receivers putting up video game type numbers, and then it goes back to running backs. Been doing this ever since I can remember. Nobody had ever seen the quarterback receiver explosion we saw from basically the last decade and a half. But now defenses have got, except for us, have gotten smart and figured out ways to stop that shit. And the offenses are getting smarter, going, well, if you're going to do all that to try to stop it, maybe we can use these running back guys to Underhill and Triplett were talking a while back about the fact that just a few years ago, when you looked at the top rushing statistics in the NFL, 32nd team was giving up like 120 rushing. Go look right now what's going on. Like almost everybody's giving up 100. Only your really top teams, and that's like in the 90s.
Right.
Because they can't throw the ball like they used to. So they're all starting to finally figuring it out. Now, getting back to quarterbacks, though, guys that can run with the ball a little bit help out a lot. Herbert, I don't know if he finished, but for the longest time, he was their leading rusher today. Was their freaking statue quarterback who doesn't normally run.
I saw the one big long run earlier.
Yeah. Once again, we can make any quarterback into freaking Tony Dorsett.
Very early in the game, and I went, here we go.
Yep.
This was going to be.
Kool-Aid, at times he did. There was a couple of plays, and one of them was it just looked weird. I think there was two of them that we were talking about watching the game where it was like he seemed to be confused, like he thought he had help and he didn't, and he didn't ever really bodied up with the guy like it was me. I don't really know what was going on there. I'm chalking that up to some type of miscommunication. The second one, the long one he gave up when Jalen Reagor made that stupid catch along the sideline, it felt like if he'd have just turned and played any part of the ball or the guy, because he only needed to nudge him and he'd have landed out of bounds and it wouldn't have been a completion. And he kind of did nothing. So I expected more from him, especially what we saw earlier in the year when he played. Like he bodied up CeeDee Lamb and fought against him and shut him down in the Dallas game. So yeah, it was a little disappointing today, especially on those two plays that I'm thinking of.
I feel like our DBs have no chemistry. And that feels like, because every time you look on the field, you're like, who's that safety right now? Who's playing here? Who's there? It's in and out, guy after guy. The good teams that have great defensive backfields, like if you think back, man, that every year, who's shutting people down, and it's the same guys that are playing together. And you can tell they like working together. You can tell they're talking about it when they're not on the field. And I don't really see any of that. It's kind of,
I,
I don't know, man. Got a
you
lot
could
of
tell
those.
me.
Got
You
a
could
lot of
tell
that
me.
with IBBs. You know, yeah, I think Kool-Aid, I was disappointed. He's got better ball skills than what he showed in a
I
couple
think
balls
so.
that I saw today.
Which
Which
makes
that's
me
going to
think
happen.
it's more
Those
confusion.
percentages are not 100% for anybody, right? But
Yeah.
I think he's played all right. Um, I think he's kind of been forced to play a little bit more than they had hoped. But got drafted high. He should be ready to come in and go.
You could answer this better than I could because since you were at the Denver game on Thursday night, because I'm watching on TV and thank God Bo Nix can't complete a pass more than 10 yards
Oh,
down the
bro.
field because it seemed like we were so confused. They had free receivers running just free all over back there. And luckily he couldn't get the ball. Because you talk about hanging 50 on us. He'd have definitely hung 50 on us if they could have hit some of those plays downfield.
He should have started the game 3 for 3 for like 160 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I know.
And he did not. Now he ended up running a couple of those balls down the field and getting in position for them to put up points. But man, he missed a couple guys wide open, and it was when the whole dome's like gasping because they see the guy run.
That's how I know it's happening when I'm watching on TV because I know what that is. It's like, oh shit, somebody's wide open. Yeah, I know.
And he just sailed it. And one of them he sailed completely out of bounds. And again, they put up with I don't know, they get 50 on us. I think they got 50.
No, it was 33, but 7 of that was on a turnover, so they like 26. But still, that was well above their scoring average for offense. But the reason why I'm asking is because the only game I made was Philly.
It felt like 50.
We didn't have a lot of that going on in Philly, but when we did, almost every time they burned us on it. And it was because we had some type of miscommunication going on, like to your point, like 4 guys playing one type of coverage, the other guy, 2 guys back there playing a different, and it wasn't a split coverage. They were also actually supposed to be playing the split coverage, not, hey, we're man on this side of the field and you 2 guys are zoning there.
Yeah,
it was we're supposed to be man and 2 guys are in zone type thing.
We are
I feel like that's happening more.
Yeah, we're running into each other 12 to 15 yards away from where the receiver is running free. Like that it's ugly right now. It's ugly everywhere right now.
It's so bad. Sports accountant can attest to this. Early in the game, they had like a 3rd and 4. They had a trip set on the right side, offensive right. McConkey's all the way on the inside. He motions and goes all the way outside of the 3. He only moved about 5 yards to get on the other side of the 2 receivers. And I looked at brother-in-law and said, they're going to throw to a wide open McConkey for first down to convert on 3rd down. And sure enough, they only needed 4. He went like 5, turned around. There wasn't a soul near him, just easy pitch and catch. And I'm like, as soon as somebody moves, I guarantee you that communication issue, whatever's going on, somebody's going to be open. And it's almost always the guy that actually goes in motion. And everybody knows it.
They didn't want to get mossed by McConkey again, so they played soft coverage.
Well, no, that was earlier in the game. That was before they started getting mossed by him. That was, that was just the whole because to your point, yeah, they no chemistry, communication or something, and when something like that happens, somebody's on the wrong page, at least one of them. And against Herbert's a good quarterback, despite his lack of numbers right now. He's the type of guy that goes, "Oh,
he's not playing with much over there."
No, he's not. Well, McConkey had a day to day, but
but he's been all right,
So, who that Zandel? Well, I think they're 2 little different types of quarterbacks, so the play calls are going to be a little different. What I don't like is
I don't like Hater.
Um,
There, I said it. I,
it's a preference thing. I get it, but with Hayner, you're he can move a little bit, but I don't think enough to make a difference. So you're leaving him in the pocket. So when he doesn't have that first read, quick throw ability, because when he can do that, he's very good at that, and he can move the offense. It's after that when that's not there, he starts getting possibly in a little bit of trouble. But I think he's of the two that can develop. I think he's the one that's going to need more development. To me, in an ideal world, Rattler would have been good enough to seize the starting job. Hayner's working as the backup, and one day Hayner could likely be a starter. I don't know if we're going to get that. I don't think we're going to get that this year. But what I don't like about the play calling is, let's call it a Sean Payton, like the reverse against Denver, and then today the double pass bullshit with Taysom Hill and all that.
why? Why do
I
that?
don't know, but
You
that's
should
when.
only be able
But
to
he
do
does the
that
same
when you're
thing,
good at doing the other stuff on offense.
and he does. I've noticed he does that kind of the same thing with the quarterbacks, where one of them is kind
Let's
of
get
like
cute.
Rattler's in a little bit of rhythm with the rollouts and stuff we were doing. He was looking good, and all of a sudden, for no reason, we've got him in a straight drop back, and all of a sudden he's taking bullets coming at him.
Yeah.
And I'm going, why are we doing that? Now, I understand at some point in the game you're going to be forced to, but as long as we're not forced to do it, let's try to avoid doing
Right.
it because it puts him in a bad spot. Um,
I could say from seeing both of them throw,
it's not even close.
it's
Rattler's
not
the
even
dude.
close. And the
No,
ball comes out of Rattler's hand the way it does a lot of these elite quarterbacks. Am I saying he's an elite quarterback? Absolutely not. The ball
no, no.
comes out of his hand like it does a lot of those dudes. Now, he he has not been able to tame it, and I'm gonna kind of double talk here. And what I mean by that is he's trying. He's trying to learn some touch, to put some air in the balls, or not put as much air when he's throwing deep balls, and it's caused him to underthrow a couple balls that could have been touchdowns in a couple games that we saw in the dome. One of them against Denver might have been the first drive, if not, it was early on. And we had a tight end going on a fade route, a flag route to the corner, and he had a good 5 yards on the linebacker, and he damn near hit the linebacker in the back with the ball.
Yeah.
But you could tell when he threw it, he kind of it instead of just trusting himself. So I see that and go, okay, Kubiak, you're supposed to be the guy that could take somebody and put him into the system and use his strengths, and his strengths are that he can sling the ball and he's mobile, and I like that, and he can throw on the run. I don't think he's gotten a fair shake so far. I think he's
No, neither one has really.
He's got happy feet, and I can understand why. He's got guys in his face every play. He's like I said, there's throws that have got to be better if you are going to be the guy. But man, he's got some things some skills that you cannot teach.
No, that's the difference. And I think part of it too is you have to adjust to the speed of the game and the throws, which that's on the job training for them right now the last few weeks.
Right.
Because the one I'm thinking of is the interception Rattler threw to open the fourth quarter against Tampa Bay when he had Rashid wide open. He just didn't do enough of this. He kind of like tried to laser it into him, and that's when that deep back that was running back there just jumped up and high pointed the ball before it got to Shaheen. It was the right read. If that defensive back is nowhere in the area, it would have been the right throw, but he was close enough that he was able to jump up and make a play on it. And that's the ones you learn probably. He goes, shit, yeah, I got to put a little. When I was in college at South Carolina, that's a completion the way I was trying to do it, not in the NFL with those corners. I mean, so on the job training on that for both of them, really, because I think Hayner kind of has to learn a little bit of his shorter, because he had one wide open today that he was going to make a perfect throw on, and defensive lineman jumped up and batted it. Would have been a big play for him on a slant or something over the middle. Got to learn, got to find that that passing lane or whatever, you can't throw it over the big guys just standing there. So
Yeah, and
you,
look,
you got to live with those growing pains for those guys right now. That's just the way it is.
yeah, unfortunately, I think the quarterback room is going to be the same quarterback room next year, and that's a
I
contract thing with Carr that's going to make that the case. But yeah, like we were talking about earlier, even if this train keeps rolling the same way that it's going right now, and we end up the year 2-15 and got the top pick, who is it? That there's nobody jumping out at me in college football right now. You know,
then
I could tell you at the beginning of the year before the college football season started, if you looked at any mock draft, they had Beck up there, a couple other
yeah,
guys from different schools. I mean, maybe I, I might have to
Ewers, my maybe, but
maybe like the
nothing.
North Carolina quarterback or some of those guys that I truthfully had never seen really play, except maybe in a bowl game or something. But and now they got the Ward kid from Miami who's like 25, 26 coming out, so you think he's got to come in and play right away type of situation. But
Which probably
I
works
don't know. I
better
mean, if the
for
guys haven't,
some of those
yeah,
older 4 and 5 year guys coming out of college. They seem to be a little better adjusted
that's kind
to
of what I was
jump
going to go
in.
next. You look at a guy like Jaden Daniels who played, 5 years and came out, and um, Bo Nix was what 5 or 6 years himself,
Hmm.
and he's
Penix too.
obviously figuring it out. We haven't seen Penix play yet because Kirko Bangs over there is lighting it up.
He's balling right now. So yeah, I don't know if
God,
you're going to
man,
see
I've always
Phoenix anytime soon.
look. I'm gonna tell a quick story. So when I was living in Alabama, we went to Senior Bowl, and it was the year he was a senior, Michigan State, and he gave this talk to a locked arena just about being a good human being and being a good person, and how it, uh, you know, good things would come to you. And he talked for about an hour, 15 minutes, and he told some funny stories. So I was like, I'm always gonna be a fan of this guy. And then he got drafted behind RG3, and I was watching the draft with my brother. I was telling him the story about it. I was like, he's going to beat RG3 out. He's going to beat RG3 out. And the injury happened. He came in, he lit it up, and he took the job. And good
Yeah.
for him, man. Like he has bet on himself over and over again. And I watched that and go, like, we couldn't have gotten him instead of Derek Carr. Like he was there.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
Minnesota fought signing him every year, and he was over there saying, "I'll do 1 year, 40 mil, give it to me, fully guaranteed."
and
And
literally, he and Carr are kind of the same
well,
quarterback
we thought
almost
so.
in a way, but
We've always thought so.
because he's had some, but I think Cousins is just the guy for whatever reason. Like you're saying, Cousins is the guy you like. Carr's the guy not so much for just you know. So you almost deal with when you start looking at comparing their numbers and all, and you go, which one's better? You're always in the back of your head going, well, this guy kind of aggravates me when he talks, but I like to listen to what that guy has to say. I mean, literally,
Yeah,
that's
and look,
sometimes it's just that way, but nothing.
I think for me, it's I am big on you've got to have good leaders, you've got to have good
Uh,
locker room guys, and if it's your primary position, your starting quarterback, your ace pitcher, your 3 hole shortstops in the field or whatever. If it's those guys that's only an advantage. And man, if you look at everywhere that he goes, his teammates love him. They
yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah,
like
it's
I mean it's
and so do fans, really, for the
and
most
so
part.
do fans. And you gotta like that guy. You gotta pull for him. Uh,
Um, I don't know if I'd make Kai Harley the GM because he's kind of the salary cap guy, and he's very, very good at it. Um, I don't know if he'd make anybody else better. He could make because you got to remember he's not the guy deciding the contracts. He's the guy figuring out when they tell him, "Hey, we need to bring in this player, or we're trading for that guy, or we need to extend this guy, and we need to do this." And negotiation is more on the Loomis end of deal. He's just got to figure out how to get it all to fit under the cap, which is sometimes he walks in, I'm sure, and goes, hey, look, if we take so and so, extend him 3 years, give him X number of dollars, roll it into the bonus, give him 3 void years to make it 6 years instead of three. Um, we can afford him and we can free up 20 million of cap space for you to go do what you want to do with that sort of thing. So
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with making him the GM because that means Mickey Loomis is out. And
well,
also,
since you
I'll
put
say
it that
this:
way, well, and then so like if Biz Gale calls you tomorrow and say, "Hey, I'm firing Mickey. You want to be GM?" You're gonna be like, "I don't know what the shit I'm doing, but at least it ain't Mickey." So it's got to be all.
100%, 100%.
It's
And
got to
look,
be a.
look,
So you put it
being
that
that
way, yeah. You might want to make him GM because he could make us better just by the fact Mickey ain't running the show no more.
being that it's Dodgers Yankees in the World Series. I
It's not
decided
much
to.
of a World Series right now,
No,
but
I
yeah.
know. I decided last night instead of it, I was going to watch the little documentary on when the Sox came back from down 3-0 just
Mm.
to make myself feel better about baseball. And it starts in the first 10 or 15 minutes where they're chasing Billy Bean, and at some point they go, we got the best guy in the house right now, best guy for the job, most passionate guy for the job. Um, and he was kind of the same. Theo was there working contracts and working numbers and kind of bringing in the statistical analytical side of it. And man, I would absolutely love for that to be Kai Hartley and have that kind of story. And maybe, I would much rather a guy that's cool with saying, I'm going to sit back here in this room.
Well, he is a numbers guy, so
I
that's
don't even need a
possible.
window, right? And as opposed to the guy that's hanging out at restaurants asking people if they want to wear his championship ring,
But now bring up a good point there because I wonder if we have an analytics department or do we listen to him or whatever. But Hartley would be a numbers guy, so he would because I almost feel like Mickey Loomis, if there is an analytics department, he just doesn't strike me as the
Yeah,
guy that wants
we're
to
gonna
know
spread
that
it
kind of
over
stuff.
10 years. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
that guy. So I
but he's already 36. That's all right.
yeah
Smack with some more gum.
yeah. No, we had no plan at all, and I think it kind of started with Peyton towards the end, but I
I
know who
think
should
Peyton
make
started
those
writing
picks.
on. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think Peyton started writing on the wall about the contracts. Yeah, of course, you're gonna go, oh man, my Hall of Fame top 5 ever quarterback leaving, but I think he started writing on the wall with the contract, saw what was coming, saw that some of these guys were going to be here forever, even long after they're going to be able to contribute and taking tons of money.
realized he probably
But
didn't have as much
hey,
power over Loomis either. So
to stick the knife in a little bit deeper, old famous Jameis had himself quite a game today. I think Peyton
he's going to be
was big
looking
on
forward
him.
to
And
playing us in 2 weeks.
yeah,
Get ready
absolutely,
for it.
absolutely. And I was absolutely pulling for him too.
Yeah,
And especially with the I always say it at least when not Cleveland. With what they did with their situation with Watson and all that. But man, we'd be a lot better off this year if we're just, and probably last year too, if we had just paid James $10-15 million.
and figured it out. But no,
We'd be
that
better
wasn't
off. We'd
there.
be better going into this off season coming contract wise.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
And
I mean,
and it would have been easier at some point to get out of that contract to go draft a quarterback if it came up, or like your options would have been more available to make movements. Like right now, you're kind of tied to Carr at least through 2025, depending on what happens
Peyton
further.
also
Uh,
had TV knocking on his door saying we're going to pay you a whole bunch of money.
well, I
So I
think
mean,
I think
and
again,
that fit
opinion,
in that,
opinion,
yeah.
no information on this whatsoever. But I think he was a little burnt out because I think he was tired of fighting against the front office. I think he started to some kind of way that dynamic shifted because he used to have a pretty stronger grip on the roster. I don't think he had that anymore. And I think he was just like, I'm deuces, I'm out. And I'm gonna go work for somebody else later, and
Yeah.
I think part of the deal was he wanted to go somewhere where he's got the control he has now, like in Denver, going, look, I'm not fighting with the GM all the time.
Right.
No, he is not. And
He shouldn't be anymore.
um, I I question
My,
about how
my
good
feelings
he
on Jeff
really was
Ireland is
when
that
he
the
was
game has
quote
passed
unquote
him
good.
by. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we had one good draft. We had one good draft.
Um,
That
I
was the Kamara Ramchek year. That's the only year that I could say we had a good draft. We made some good picks here and there, but that was the one where it's like we had a good draft.
we had more bad drafts
Oh yeah,
than that one good draft. And you're right, there was a couple drafts where we had a couple diamonds we plucked out of it, but the like the rest of the guys, if they made it out of training camp, they didn't make it to a second season, and I'm like, that's
right.
kind of a wasted pick.
Yeah,
Uh, it definitely reflects the lack of Sean Payton's mentality of, I don't want to say win at all costs, but winning was ultra important to Sean. Details were ultra important to Sean. Um, the littlest thing pissed him off, and he let somebody hear about it. And a lot of times, if you read anything about him, you watch any of the documentaries, you listen to other players talk about him. I mean, it could be the very simplest thing that he deemed to be very important, because he was like, if you let that slide, then what happens next? Or yelling at a player. That's one of my famous ones. When somebody, I think it was Ninkovich, gets a 15-yard personal foul, and he's like, do you think you're worth 15 yards? And getting in his face about it.
right.
That's, and he had the players that responded to that. I think most of those are gone. There's a few left, like DeMario and some of the older guys that played with. But that whole mentality is just,
Yeah.
gone.
Hey,
Accountability, definitely.
anybody who knows me knows that I have beaten the Davenport as the worst trade ever for anybody, up until probably the Sean Watson trade, I would have to say. But it set us back years. I've told the story before where I picked up, I couldn't dial my brother's phone number fast enough to give him a call and say, we're drafting Lamar Jackson. We're drafting Lamar Jackson. We just traded all the way up to 14. No team has ever made such a big move and giving up so much in the draft in the first round and not taking a quarterback. That's all they kept saying. We're taking Lamar Jackson. Here goes Lamar Jackson. Marcus Davenport, man, he had a good broad jump. Like that's Mickey Loomis sees that and he thinks that's something big. I think he's huge on those kind of guys. I think he tries to get one or two out of every draft. And I think when he's got the chance to move up and do stuff like that, then I
He
don't
wants
know.
to be the smartest guy in the room all the time. And
Yeah,
he's not.
look, that guy was not a first round draft pick, much less what we gave up for him, much less who you pass up. Go look at who was drafted after him. Go look at what our team needs were at the time, how we could have won Breeze a couple.
Could we put Trevor Penning in that same category? Because I feel the same
100%.
way. I think if
100%.
Penning's a second round pick, none of us are really pissed off at him right now. But he was a first.
Davenport, no.
Same thing with Davenport. It's like
Davenport, Turner, Foskey, those are fourth, fifth round draft picks. Those guys don't deserve to be up there. They I get it. Foskey coming from Notre Dame and was a big guy coming out and all this, but I don't know, man. I think we always try to go and find some kind of athletic freak that we can turn into a football player, and it just that stuff runs out in the NFL. We turned Marcus Costa from a no-name tight end to an unbelievable wide receiver, and now we think we could do it with everybody.
But even then, he was a 7th round pick. So who cares if it doesn't
Yeah,
work?
exactly. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't do that with your first rounders.
I am okay with Marcus Davenport in the 5th. Let's go. He would have gotten me so excited in the 5th round. He had no shot.
I would answer this one with Jason already answered it, that if I had the current GM, Mickey's out. So that's
again, the front office got to go. The front office got to go. From the question before and this question, the front office has to go.
I think so.
Bad
I think
that's bad signings, bad contracts.
Nothing good coming out of our front office for the most part.
Empty dome.
That's coming.
What could possibly and that the thing about the empty dome right now, where the other fans in the dome, it's not just that Saints ticket owners are selling their tickets to other. It's that people that are working to save money to buy tickets or are not buying tickets anymore.
Oh no.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of tickets available for opposing fans right now. There's nobody going, all right, I got to put this aside because I'm gonna go because I love my Saints because they're playing for the city, they're playing for us. No, that's not what's going on right now. And as long as the front office is there and it's business as usual, then that's gonna be the case. There's a whole lot of orange for Denver. Denver's,
Wait till Atlanta comes here in a couple of weeks if you want to see a lot of it.
Oh man,
That's going to be brutal.
It's rough. And look, you always had the teams that traveled well, or your teams that have fans in every city, right? Like I feel like every time we played Pittsburgh, there's a lot of Steelers fans.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Steelers fans everywhere. I lived in a few places and realized there's Steelers fans everywhere. I lived in South Alabama at one point, and there was a bar that was a complete Pittsburgh Steelers bar, and it was packed every Sunday. And so you expect those things, but when Carolina's bringing fans over and Denver's bringing fans over, and man, some of these teams that just should be traveling and filling up your section in the dome. It's what else do you need to see before you let go of the people pulling the strings?
Yeah, but he also threw 32 touchdowns that year too.
Yeah,
went over 5,000, but
5,500 yards or something like that.
Yeah,
they were an awful team playing from behind. They had an awful defense, and they gave up a whole lot of points.
He was and he was always a turn.
If we had Winston today, it would have at least probably been like 26-24 or something.
Well, I was going to say though, the thing about Winston is he's just going to chunk it and dunk it all game. So it's either, that's what he does. I actually think he had a chance under Sean. I don't think he'd had any chance in hell with our Carmichael. Kubiak and Janoko maybe could do something with him. But Sean had him under control when he had him before he blew the knee out that year because he was about 8 TDs to 1 interception. His decision-making was pretty good. He wasn't being a complete maniac with the ball. I think finally for the first time in his life, somebody gave him coaching instructions other than just throw the shit out the ball down the field, Jameis.
Right.
So,
and again, what is Jameis Winston being paid in comparison to what Derek Carr's being paid?
A lot, like nothing, like not even close.
I mean, is he on a veteran's minimum probably or something, or that
he's probably a little more than that. But I mean, he's not making 20 million. He's not making 15 million. I don't believe. I don't even know if it's double digits. I guarantee it's a contract easy to get out of, and that's what you get. I think a lot of times,
and he
like you were saying earlier,
he would have signed the same contract next year. While we're trying to get out of all, it's more than just the play on the field or what he's done in the past. It's they liked him in the locker room, and he would have signed deals with us to where we would have been able to get out of some of this salary cap out.
Well, that's
the current quarterback we have playing at the same rate and is the same quarterback, the same as Winston is.
Well, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Would you rather pay a guy who isn't a franchise quarterback franchise money, or would you have a guy who could be basically holding a hand grenade in your fist that he could just blow up on you at any time, or he could actually blow up where you want the explosion to happen downfield, but you paid him a lot less, and you can get out from under him when things aren't working out and going, all right, we can move on to the next guy. So even if you take the name Winston off, right now I wish we had that type of player where hopefully we can get him under control. If it's a game manager with a live arm and can make some pretty decent decisions, and I think that's where Sean was getting him to move. But we're good. But what we can't have is just too much. And look, it's nothing on the player because no player in the world is going to go, what, you want to pay me $150 million over 3 years to be your quarterback? Fuck yeah, I'm signing that deal. It's not on him. It's on the GM who gave him that money. That's the real problem.
Derek Carr probably said, you're going to pay me what? Oh man,
Yeah,
take
I'm
it.
signing that deal in a heartbeat. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's an easy one. We're going to lose a lot more games. But you're going to see more of the same of what you're seeing now.
yeah. It's I believe they all need to go. I think we put out the right signs to everybody that hey, we're done with this. We're moving in the direction we believe we should be a better franchise than this. This is not acceptable. That message has to be sent. There's only one way to send it. I do not think that this is going to happen. I think they're all going to stay. I think Carr's going to come back. I think we're going to win 3 or 4 games. I think he's going to celebrate and act like he's the greatest thing in the world. No, things are so good. I got average football numbers and our team sucks because that's what Derek Carr is.
If well,
And Derek Carr's DA's guy. DA is Mickey's useful idiot.
that's the thing. They're all
Miss
type.
not interested in firing anybody or making any enemies. She's interested in making money, and she is making a bunch of it. So
Look, could Derek Carr be the guy, the franchise? No, that's look. After 11 years in the league, you are who you are. Could Derek Carr be a Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield type right now, who's lightening it up and leading the league? Yeah. Um, and if
I
you
don't
can get
know.
that out of him, well, I mean, look, he and Shaheed had a thing going there when you can give him time and get those two on the same page, but
Baker did more with nothing today than I've ever seen Carr do. I'll say that. I
yeah,
couldn't
no,
even tell
but
you any of them dudes Baker was throwing to today.
McMillan, Sterling, mostly Kate Otten. I think he went up over 100, caught 2 touchdowns, but um, and the running backs, they had their fair share of catches. The
Yeah, I know. I feel like and
it,
I'm
it's
watching him play for a rival is like, God, I feel like we could have had him too.
yeah,
And you know,
but the point being is at one time Baker looked like Derek Carr. So I mean, I think that's part of the whole. Um,
well, but I
Geno
think
Smith looked like a total first round bust at one point in his career.
right,
So I think that there's
and
a semblance.
he was,
There's a
but I think
semblance
your
of
first
where
point was we've seen so much of it from Carr, and with Baker, I think we're also able to look at the situation and go, damn, Baker actually won some game in Cleveland, and Cleveland it's just a flat out dumpster fire, and
sort of
it
like New
was
Orleans is right now. I mean,
right.
that's the point.
And
And
then
it's
he
like,
went to Carolina, and it's like, well, Carolina's a dumpster fire. And then he went to LA, and it was like, Baker's got a little swag back. He's
well,
doing some things, right? And then
no,
he went somewhere where he got into a good culture, with Arians there and their coach there, and then he's got Evans, and he's got a receiving back, and he's got
no.
Godwin.
I
And it's
think what
like,
it was is he wound up and got coaching in with McVay in the Rams
yeah,
and Liam
yeah,
Cohn. And that's all the guys right now in Tampa Bay. Because what Tampa Bay did is when they signed him, is they went go get all the ex-Ram guys that for McCoy when the first one moved on, they grabbed the guy they got now. So just kind of a system situation where they put him in, which is fine because you finally
and,
get
and
production
it's
out of
somewhere
him.
like the guy calling plays in Tampa was the guy that turned Geno around in Seattle too, or something. He was quarterbacks coach in Seattle, and now he's calling plays there or something.
Is it? I thought it was Cohn was the guy that was from McVay. But
He
it's
might be. It probably was at some point.
hey, who knows? These trees get so tied up. But I mean, the point is like you find the right situation for him. And I think part of the thing
Right.
is the point I was trying to get to is I'm not so sure New Orleans is the right situation for Carr to be in.
No, I don't. Like I
He
said,
had his heyday in that West Coast thing that Gruden was doing, and those style offenses appear around the league, and I think that's what he's best suited to do.
yeah, I agree. And that heyday was a 12 to 15 quarterback.
Well, he could hang with him. It's getting that way. Sad to
Yeah.
say, I didn't think I would ever see a statement like that and go, "Yeah, it's getting that." Yeah, but it's getting that way, and it's getting there fast. That's what's scaring me. It's like all of a sudden it's really picking up pace.
Yeah. I feel like Saints situation was always the offense was good, defense was bad, defense is good, offense is
We
bad.
never
Never
had
got everything on the same page. We,
rarely.
we
Well, we won a Super Bowl one year when we did it
Super Bowl
finally.
year run, it was bend don't break defense, and the thing that we did better than anybody else was we turned people over. And that carried us on defense. But it, this year it's bad and bad. Some of those '80s years, I think we had a solid defense for a few years, but right now it just feels bad all around.
Yeah, and a wee bit scary. That what scares me the most in going back to my time in the 70s and 80s, and then that period back in the 90s after Mora when Ditka years and all that shit. Is you knew it was bad. They knew it was bad. Just nobody knew how to freaking fix it. And that's what I don't want to get into. Because you know who we're in danger of becoming right now is the freaking New York Giants. I feel
Yeah.
like we're that close to constantly picking in the top 10 in the draft and still not being able to win freaking football games.
Yeah, I'll take those extra Super Bowl rings that they got on us though before we get to the current Giants.
Well, unfortunately,
Well,
that was the
look,
once proud program where it winds up now. We're the once proud
right.
organization. That's
Well,
what it looks like when you keep screwing up like we're screwing up is the Giants now.
I tell you this difference for me from the '80s to now. I feel like back in the '80s and even carrying into the '90s, some of that football was like there's 4 or 5 good teams. There's 4 or 5 good teams every year. Everybody else is all beating up on each other to be who's worse, right? And it was expected, and that was kind of the thing. We were all Saints fans going to Saints games, but man, I had a Cowboys T-shirt at one point in my life, Cowboys starter jacket, because I'm watching Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, and Troy Aikman do everything right, and that's all they sold at the champs here in South Louisiana. They didn't sell Saints stuff because we weren't good, Now I feel like more than ever that there's opportunity for so many
turnaround.
teams.
Yeah.
There's so much turnaround all the time. There's some statistic that they show every year where it's like 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 playoff teams from the year before don't make it the following year. Like and we find ourselves here every year. And honestly, I'm hoping I would take, obviously, Saints fans. I think everybody should be on the same page. We should all hope we win every game, win every playoff game, win the Super Bowl. That's all we want. We know it's not going to happen, but I would rather be 2-15 this year than 8-9. Again, we need as many early picks in each round as possible.
We got a lot of work to do, so that would help.
Yeah.
Because we put ourselves in such a hole. But you're talking about we're going to miss a playoff for the fourth year in a row. It's been a long time that the Saints have missed 4 years in a row.
The team that I fear being, and it's a different sport, but I always don't know why this comes to mind, but the Atlanta Hawks always seem to be picking like 16 to 18 in every draft, and it's a crapshoot if you're going to get a good player or not. And they can't build anything, and you can't get to where you need to get the guy, and I feel like that's what we're playing for. And if Derek Carr comes back and is a starter, then you're trying to go 6-11, and that bothers me some because you're just giving up the future.
Fortunately, the remainder looking at our schedule and how our team's looking, I don't even know if we can get to 6, but
6
it's possible.
Somebody's going to do something ridiculous and give us a game, and we're going to celebrate it like it's a Super Bowl in the field, and I'm going to be pulling my hair
out. Right now, Carolina. We lose to Carolina, then it's the Saints. That's just I don't even care about any other team you want to name that's not very good right now. Carolina has 1 win. We at least have 2, one of them over them. So until they beat us, I'm going to leave them as the worst.
Yeah.
Probably we're second or third or fourth, but
2 of those teams won today. One of those teams has a much better roster. They just can't seem to. They're cursed. The Jets are cursed. They're just flat out cursed. They've lost a couple after the offense puts them up, and defense just doesn't stop anything. Yeah. No, I would rather be nobody on that list, I guess, but maybe New England. They seem to be playing with a little bit of heart. Um, Cleveland's a dumpster fire. Carolina, we beat. They're terrible. The Jets, they're cursed. So, yeah, they're all
Look,
worse than us except New England.
I'm gonna tell you, watch out for Cleveland. Now that they've gotten rid of the atrocity that's Deshaun Watson and he ain't playing this year, watch out for Cleveland. They play
I know,
defense.
but
They do play defense. And
look at
and
that
if Nick
roster.
Chubb gets healthy, really watch out for Cleveland if
I
he's
look at
in
that
form.
roster and just go, who are these guys? Like, it's the Jameis excitement. It is. He's done it before. He's come in and made plays.
I think
won games, and
I think you could go quarterback for him in place of Deshaun Watson, and it would be excitement for them because he was terrible. Look, you could complain about as bad as our quarterbacks have played, but dear God, all of them were better than Deshaun Watson this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of them were bad. He was horrid. So
the Carolina guys have been terrible. They were terrible. Yeah. I like Drake May from what I've seen of him.
I do too. I always felt like
the ball comes out of his hand like it comes out of somebody's other dude's hand. He took off for a run today where there was not a guy on the field that was expecting him to be as fast as he was.
Yeah, that's the touchdown run.
Touchdown run. Yeah.
He and I think behind Daniels, he probably had my second best confidence level for being the guy that could potentially be a top quarterback in the league. I liked him a lot, but I didn't like him going to New England. But that may end up working out for him, so you never know. Yeah, Vegas too. Actually, Vegas, they may be in the running because I thought they had a shot at having a pretty decent year and turning stuff around, but they seem to be headed in the wrong direction along with us. So they may.
They're doing what we need to do. They're unloading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So once they get all that straightened out and they get a legit quarterback, hey, maybe they want Carr back. You think we could send him back now that Josh Daniels in there?
Yep. Send him back.
See if we get him for a pick. So
yep.
So I don't. Once again, it's cathartic to kind of get this all off the chest, but man, just saw this one coming over the last couple of weeks so bad. Going, we could be sitting at 2 wins rolling into Carolina, and that was just something that you didn't want to talk about. I don't think I ever directly said it on here. I don't know if I directly said it to people, but I know I thought about it going, holy crap, we may be 2 wins by the time we get to week 9 and go into Carolina. And here we are.
I think when we talked about it, I said, well, at least DA will be gone. Hopefully Mickey too. Again, I just don't see it happen. I just don't feel like we got anybody that's firing people right now.
Nothing against the man, Dinola, but I hope DA was fired at some point at the airport, along with Mickey at this point. But I hope you're right. But I think this team just needs
we need to hit reset.
It needs to reset, but it needs to be the right way because you got to get the money freed up over time while trying to keep your younger players intact that you want to keep, like an Olave. You really don't want to part with him, but you may have to at some point, whether he leaves because he doesn't want to extend or whatever. So there's kind of the mix in there, but
I'm trading Olave right now for. If I can get a first for him, I'm getting it. If I get a second, I'm getting it. I think you
probably get a second. I don't know about a first.
I'm a little worried about him with the concussions and stuff like that. Anyway.
I did not want to say that out loud and jinx the crap out of it, but you went there.
It is, man.
You went there, but yeah, that's like today when he got hit and had to leave. I'm like, oh shit, it's another concussion.
And look, it dates back even before the one this year, and there's been
2 in college, and then 1 his rookie year, and then this one. So yeah, it's like scary. Which But the point being is you got a collective, so you got to have to kind of figure it all together. But I think the biggest thing is the veterans who are overpaid and not producing. Those are the ones we've got to figure out a way to get rid of over the next 2 years without crushing the cap to the point where we have to take the hit and lose a first round pick. Because to pull all this off, we need our first round pick. So,
Right.
um, we'll end it on this one though. Let's throw this speculation out there. If we do wind up with the first or second overall pick, do you use it or do you go ahead? Let me pull one of the Houston, Chicago moves and trade it down and grab a shit ton of capital, whether it's in the current draft or in the first round the next year or whatever, for the guy that wants to come up and take their whatever they want a quarterback, probably. But or do you take the QB?
And
I don't know if you can really be answered without knowing what the draft board's going to look like.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I haven't done enough really looking into it. I
But
could tell you there's definitely not hype on the quarterbacks like there was coming into this year. This year was the year to be up there with the quarterbacks.
well, the thought being that every first or second round pick you could get over that 2 year span for doing something like that is conceivably one more veteran contract full of dead money you can get rid of because you've got a rookie under the rookie deal,
Right.
which is typically no dead money or anything. It's just a straightforward normal contract like all contracts should be instead of the shit that the Saints do where
Yeah.
it's game check to game check. That's all it's a lot,
Right.
but we're not stacking up all this other crap we got to deal with the next 4 years. So
I don't know. I mean, all the quarterbacks this year, they seem to be playing well that I've seen kind of bounce around in that first round. They seem to be older guys who, with the exception of Beck, they all seem to be much older guys that have kind of bounced around, gotten a lot of experience. That not just Jaden Daniels, but Bo Nix this year as well, and he seems to start kind of turning around. And man, I don't know. I kind of like them getting some seasoning and some experience at the collegiate level. I think that has translated better than some of these athletic guys that come in and they've only played 9-10 games, and like Richardson or Trey Lance even, or guys like that where it's you didn't really see much, and what we have now seen from them, it's like, well, man, we need to see a whole lot more.
well,
I can tell you there'll probably be 2 or 3 guys that go in the combine and absolutely, light it up and have great meetings, and they're going to put them in that top 10 of every mock draft, and we're all going to jump on it. But
part of it is though, I think too, like the matchups in college lend themselves sometimes to and I'm gonna use Richardson as an example because I know LSU was one of them, but he had a couple of SEC teams that for whatever reason he lit them up. I think Auburn might have been one or whoever. Even though you watched him play enough games, you realize, man, he's not a first round pick. But you
right.
get those couple of games every year. Because I mean, at times he got benched as a starter because he was so bad over that 3-year span.
Yeah.
You string enough of those together, some NFL guy somewhere looking at tape and film, and then he gets to the combine and blows that up, and they're convinced this guy is the next
Right.
fill in the blank of great
Right.
quarterbacks. But it's like, did you like you're saying 8, 9 total games in a 3-year career? Did you watch the other 20 something of them
Right.
and see what he looked like in there? And if you're the guy that can throw up some amazing numbers, especially over any decent quantity of games.
Yeah. Look, I
Maybe
can tell
all
you
over
from
you.
the guys that we're talking about, guys that popped in my head, I'm going, yeah, if somebody's gonna give me a 1 this year, a 1 to 2, a 4 this year, plus a 1 to 2 next year, like they've been given to move up for these quarterbacks, 100% I'm taking that. Because we've also seen that those teams are terrible the next year, so that 1 you're getting the following year could end up being, that Caleb Williams pick, which again I would have taken Jaden Daniels, but
Yeah.
the ending of that game, oof, give me some of that.
Too, I know. I know. It's like, yeah, it's like you said, I'm not familiar. Look, put it this way. I feel like that may be the correct call because right now you feel like this time last year, you knew those, you kind of knew Daniels may Knicks, but
Williams.
you had a list to work
Yeah,
with. Like right now,
yeah,
I don't even know if there's a working list of who the top QBs are coming out
right.
in college.
I mean,
It
even the guy, there were even a couple guys that they were some mock guys tried to sneak in the first and second round, like the kid out of Tulane and those guys.
Pratt,
Those
yeah,
people going around. It's definitely not the same hype right now.
no,
I tell you what
and
I think is going to happen. Somebody's going to get into that playoff this year in college, and they're going to absolutely light it up, and it's going to look different from what their season has looked like, and it's going to carry them as kind of being the guy going into the offseason, the combine.
it's very possible because it's almost like they always talk about. Well, you got to have your Heisman moment to win the
That's
Heisman.
right.
Well, it's almost like in the NFL draft, you got to have your draft moment.
Right.
Or
Right.
moments. You got to like string some together some kind of way, and then all of a sudden they turn the head and the
Remember,
turn the head and the hype machine starts. Because once the hype machine starts, that's how you get
that's
your
right.
first round in the NFL. You
Ooh.
need the hype machine.
Baker was the same year the Josh Allen draft and all them guys, right? I remember seeing like Josh Allen was this 1 million,
Maybe I think so.
talent, and then Baker had his pro day, and he did his pro day. Was it Baker or was it Manziel that I think it was Baker that did his pro day with the shoulder pads on, and everybody blew it up and said he's a dog and all this other stuff, and he's sore.
Could be. That was the run of the quarterback madness, that stretch, with most of them coming
Yeah,
out of like Oklahoma, because it was Baker, then I think Kyler Murray the next year. So that
yeah,
sounds about right. That was right around
yep.
that whole
And
era. So
all those
and
guys kind
they
of
were
bounce
losing their
around some of
minds
the
over all
same
those guys.
schools.
Yeah.
But Baker at Texas Tech for a year. Kyler Murray
If I remember right, was it him and Mahomes that swap
yes,
spots?
yeah, I
It
think so.
went from Mahomes, I think, went from Oklahoma to Texas Tech, and Baker went the opposite way. Because I remember LSU in the 2016, whatever crappy bowl game they played in against Texas Tech, that was against Mahomes lighting us up that whole
Yes,
game.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was all right around the same era. And I remember he came from somewhere else and wound up there. And the guy that was there went to wherever he was. I think it was a Texas Tech, Oklahoma thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends who it is, and
And it's gonna,
I'm
what it's
certain
gonna look like.
I'll like somebody better than the guys that we got, unless Ratliff keeps the job and takes off.
I tell you, the both lines of scrimmage right now, my biggest freaking concerns of spots
Ruin
where,
him.
man, if you don't get better there,
Yeah.
like
And
our
look,
young
that's
crop of good corners without a
if
good
you pull up
defensive
a
line
mock
to get
right
better.
now, you probably got 3 or 4 linemen in the top 10. On both sides of the ball. So those guys are up there now. Now my issue with that is we're not one guy away, right? So you got to line up some other draft picks somehow if you want to use that pick on a lineman.
Well,
Um,
even if you're not using it in the first, you have to
so,
add consideration. I think we're to the point now where when it comes to either line, wherever the talent is, if you need one, you should just soon draft two. I don't care if
yeah,
you're talking to the defensive line
yeah,
or the offensive line right now. It's like if you
yeah,
need one, draft two.
yeah. I saw a mock. I probably been about 2-3 weeks, but I saw a mock draft that had Travis Hunter going number 1. I was just like,
Wait, who is that?
Travis Hunter, the kid from Colorado that plays both sides. I mean, I freaking love that kid. He is exciting to watch. He's fun. He's my Allen Iverson of the draft, right? Like I would pay a ticket to watch that dude play football. Um, that was the kind of thing I always say about Iverson. People that know me know that he's top 3 of my favorite basketball players all the time. And people would go, "What about this guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but man, like, would you sit down and watch that guy play? Like I would sit down and watch Iverson play all day long,
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Just talking about it. Yeah, we
Yeah, yeah.
definitely need help there.
The draft's heavy for it, so let's go do it. But you gotta get the right guys that come in and play whatever system we get to coaches, because hopefully it's a different one.
Yep. I think that's going to about wrap it up for us tonight here. It's like, it's going to
It's a
be a
rough time.
long, it's going to be rough. It's going to be a long rest of the season. It's going to be a long off season going into it. And I mean, they've got tough decisions. I mean, it's what it really boils down to. They got very tough decisions they have to start making, but they need to start making them tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
When they roll
yeah,
into the building, they have to. They can't keep selling themselves because I don't think they're going to sell the fans on it anymore. This pipe dream of we still have a shot of doing something positive this season. No, you really don't.
yeah.
That's literally on the thumbnail I had in the title, R.I.P. to the 2024 season because it is. It's buried. It's gone. It's done.
Yeah,
I
it's
got to
the
start
worst.
looking to the future.
It's the worst of the worst of what we talked about in the preseason of these are the options of how our season's going to go. It's at the bottom of the barrel. You
Yeah.
know.
So it's kind of like you get lemons, you make lemonade. That's the point where we're in. We got to start making some lemonade, start trying to fix some of these problems, and the sooner the better.
Yeah,
To get everything in line, like everything we talked about tonight, to get it all in line. It's definitely not going to be an overnight process. So I'd rather have the 10-week. That's how many games we got left, 2 and 8, yeah, or 9, whatever the hell we have left in the season. Using that to get the jump on. Now, play the young guys. Let's see what you got. Move on from the vets. You can move on, start working on that. So I think
that's
that's
right.
pretty
That's got
much
to be
the
the
sum
plan.
of everything. So go from there. And oh yeah, most importantly, clean out the front office and start getting ready to hack up the coaching staff while you're at it. So
Yep. Start working on your pitches to get people in the building.
that's the thing. So
All right, Tim.
that's
Been a pleasure.
but it's one of God. We got to just win a freaking game so we can just hoot at neck. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
and get some
Let
joy
it,
out of it. So hopefully
yeah.
we'll have that
Let
going
it
in
be a young
Carolina.
guy making some plays that we could talk about the future.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want to see going forward. I want to see the young guys out there, or even the middle and veterans just going like a Saunders, just saying, "Screw it! I don't care what I don't care what the score is. What's going on in the game? I'm just going to
Yeah,
go out there, just be a
yeah,
crazy big defensive tackle guy, and when I sack a guy, I'm going to do a dance. Give me that much at least. I
yep.
can, you know,
Absolutely.
something to work with. So." Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. Please go ahead, give me a thumbs up and a like on this one before you check out. But I'll be seeing you a little later in the week, and hopefully we'll be seeing you next weekend after we beat Carolina. Because if we don't, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. So
Yeah.
that being said, I'm Tim. That's Jason. Peace out and who dat.